Well, just 5 days left in President Trump's term of office. 4 years has come to an end, and it is not a very good end. Yesterday, the House of Representatives voted to impeach the president. It's the second time that they've done this. Why has this all happened? Well, after the election, Team Trump refused to accept the result and said that it was not clear the whole thing had been done fairly. Was it fair? Well, all I can say is 100 million Americans voted by post, voted early. And what this did, by fair means or foul, is it meant that in the big cities with the huge populations where turnouts historically are low, because of all these paper ballots, turnouts were very high. And of course, in those cities, they were massively in Biden's favor. You can look at all of the anomalies, and there are lots of them. But the point always was, and I said this all the way through, that actually proving something's gone wrong is a very difficult thing to do. And I never thought they'd be able to achieve it. I've seen it myself in this country, and I have to say, I think the French have got it right, that you should only have absentee voting in really exceptional circumstances. But those images of the 6th of January in Washington, D.C., of the mob storming into the Capitol, I'm afraid they're there and they last. And that was what was discussed last night in the House of Representatives, that something awful, dreadful had happened and that somehow Trump had incited them. Well, I think it may have been a mistake to get 500,000 people to assemble on that day in that febrile atmosphere. But the president didn't tell them to go and storm the Capitol, nothing of the kind. And these Democrats in the House, they're the same people, of course, that falsely went through an impeachment process against him a year ago. They're the same people that completely refused to accept the result of the 2016 election that Trump won and have spent 4 years doing their utmost to delegitimize him. And of course, they're the same Democrats who, when we saw widespread violence, endless violence in dozens of American cities caused by the Black Lives Matter movement, either turned a blind eye or made every excuse they could to justify the violence, the arson, and the looting. So the air is thick with hypocrisy. It really, truly is. But much more importantly, I think that by going through this impeachment process, they are making a very bad mistake. And it's a bad mistake because, as Winston Churchill said, be magnanimous in victory. They're doing the opposite. They're being as vindictive as they possibly can, and it shows every sign that they will go on doing that. If you add to that what's happened on social media over the course of the last few days, the Twitter ban on the president, for argument's sake, you're leading into a very dangerous situation.
Hi, in this video, Nigel Farage, in his message, he urged leaders to focus on rebuilding trust, restoring stability, and addressing the real challenges facing the nation rather than using impeachment as a political weapon. Nigel Farage strongly criticized the second impeachment of the US president, calling it a political mistake and a deeply decision more. He argued that the impeachment was driven more by political hatred than by genuine concern for democracy. According to Farage, the process was rushed, unfair, and aimed at pushing the president even after leaving office. Farage claimed that instead of hunting the country, his impeachment created more anger and politicization among the American people. He highlights that the decision was influenced by partisan interests and that it set a dangerous precedents for the further. Farage believes that his action did nothing to solve American real real issues and only with end the political riots. In this message, he urged leaders to focus on rebuilding trust, restoring. Hi, in this video, Nigel Farage, in his message, he urged leaders to focus on rebuilding trust, restoring stability, and addressing the real challenges facing the nation rather than using impeachment as a political weapon. Nigel Farage strongly criticized the second impeachment of the US president, calling it a political mistake and a deeply decision more. He argued that the impeachment was driven more by political hatred than by genuine concern for democracy. According to Farage, the process was rushed, unfair, and amendment had